Base, but
Like expository sixth grade or persuasive sixth grade.
okay,
Yeah.
that's very nice. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, put your name in there.
She said that's dinner. That's dinner? Dinner drinks.
What website? You help, she wasn't here.
Very nice.
Okay, into this.
Oh, it's
Today's meet, do you remember?
Rhonda,
Is it
Greg, and
instruction?
Marina.
What was
We
instruction?
So,
we required it for
So
all.
they know exactly what they should have.
Yeah.
Um,
They know I'm evaluating it. That's what it's called. Diction, sentence structure,
And then just
and
numbers 4,
again.
7.
Okay, so we usually think English teachers, spelling, punctuation, grammar. So that's only like 18%.
That's not gonna help my time. You'll have to just back away. Just back away.
Stringently, every score, I think, is multiple.
I know, like, okay, maybe.
Okay,
Okay, so how do you share with your students now what your objectives are? Some of you have posted on today's meet, and this is really nice if you've ever in your classroom before done, sometimes people will call it like a parking lot, where they'll put like a paper up and people can write questions that they have. I never use that in my classroom. I mean, I've used it when I've done PDs before, but if you are doing a topic that you know that's pretty hairy and that kids may have questions about, you could always have them, post kind of their thoughts or questions they have as you're going through. So a good way you could use that in your classroom, but looking at how we set our objectives, many of you set it through the syllabus and also mentioned it in class. Some of you do it through answering questions, some discussing the assignment. I heard some people over here saying I try to make sure that if I give a project that I give them a rubric and how I'm going to grade it ahead of time so they know what the end goal is. Okay, all great things to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind though, if we give, and I don't know if you guys post your syllabus online or anything. If it's on your Blackboard, I would encourage you to do that because if your students are anything like me, I get a syllabus at the beginning of the year. I put it somewhere where I'm not going to forget it, and then I can't find where that place is that I put it that I wouldn't forget about.
The floorboard of your car where you stepped on it time and time again.
I don't have anything there yet. The back seats get pretty bad because every day after a presentation I just load another bag and leave the bag in there and grab another one. But that's something to keep in mind. And some of the tools like that we've talked about today, that Remind 101 and things like that, will help reduce your stress and frustration. I would get very frustrated when kids wouldn't turn in work, or wouldn't come prepared for a test, or just wouldn't show up on a day of a test. If I'm sending out that reminder, I'm reducing my frustration. They're still accountable for the work, but it helps them to know what the objectives are and what's coming up. Because everybody wants to know, what am I expecting? What's expected of me?
If you use PowerPoint, I always put it like my first slide, here's what we're doing today, things like that.
Right.
At the elementary school, I just posted it on the board. Sure.
Absolutely. So it does give them a direction. It helps them to focus. If you are someone that likes to lecture, if they know what the objective of the day is, they know what they need to be listening to and paying attention. Because our kids don't know how to take notes. They're going to still try to write down every single word you say. If you have a PowerPoint, wait, I didn't get that written down. And they're frantically scribbling it. Okay, something to keep in mind, and this is something I really worked with my math teachers on. They would go through and they would do notes, and the kids would be filling them in, but they'd be filling in the problems, and they'd try to get it all down. Well, they never had process time. And when they got home and they looked at their notes, they had no idea what they meant or how they got there. Okay, so we need to help our students know what they need to focus on so that they can learn the information and they're just not frantically trying to scribe it. We want them to be able to process it and know what they need to point out. If we have clear objectives, it lets them know what they need to focus on. Because a lot of the times, they're going to ask what's on the test. Well, if I let them know what the objective is, they should know what's going to be on the test. You know, we can always say, well, whatever I talked about is fair game. You
Read the
know,
book.
read the book. That's pretty broad. If we want them to do well, let them know what the target is. We don't have to let them know what the questions are or what I'm going to expect them to do with the information, but let them know what information they need to know.
Absolutely.
So once again, they really recommend if we're going to set objectives, make sure that they're clear, that we communicate it with the students so that they understand it, that we connect it to what they've learned prior in the past and how they're going to use it in the future. And then like we did at the very beginning, engage our students in personalizing it. Because if they don't see why they need to know it, unfortunately, they're probably not going to do it or learn it. So if we can help them personalize it and connect with it, they're going to get much better results.
Would you all say, I would think this, when I've done some stuff at PSU too, and just to get an intake of kids, because Jen brought this up, we think kids know about technology, they know how to entertain themselves with technology, they don't know how to use all the apps and what have you, but kids do know if you care about them. And I think they would much rather have someone caring about them, and they know that, than using all the technology we have to offer could ever spend. I really do believe that. One thing I wanted to show, and I was thinking of chemistry actually on this, or maybe a math piece. If you pull up a today's meet or whatever you can share up, because there's some stuff that some kids aren't going to get, and maybe if you have it up even just during class at the very beginning, shoot out some questions, and particularly if, did you bring, no, I don't know who brought it up, but just doing the little code, maybe their last 4 digits of their student code, he left, yeah. I'm asking those questions that are going to say, oh, okay, I'm feeling really stupid, I don't get it, the test is tomorrow, I don't get it, I'm not going to have time after class, and tell them free game. Post up any questions you have during that review and I'll go over it, because you don't know what they don't know, and there's a good chance they're not going to tell you what they don't know in front of their peers. I don't think you outgrow that piece. A lot of students don't. So.
Or it could be even they post what they don't understand or they have questions of, and that's the activity for the day, then they break up into groups. And
small
they
groups, and they
figure out what are
explain.
the answers.
Absolutely.
Because oftentimes if you taught it and they didn't get it, they need to hear it from maybe someone else in a different way, and that helps them to connect.
Right.
Okay. But when it comes to any of these strategies, the key is to make it personal. Personalize it. If you're not comfortable using today's meet and you throw it up in your classroom, your students are going to know that you're not comfortable with it. Okay? If you're not comfortable texting using Remind 101, don't do it. Okay? You need to find what you're comfortable with. Play with it yourself until you're comfortable with it before you take it out and use it with your students. And it's okay to say, okay, I messed up with this. I taught broadcast journalism for a long time. When I started it, I had my English and I'd taken journalism class. I had no idea how to use the software. So my students and I learned it together. And there were times that I'd say, you know what? I don't know how this works. Let's figure it out. But that's me and that's my personality. If you're not comfortable doing that, make sure before you use it that you are comfortable with it.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because that's what it's all about. Whether it's your objectives, whether it's communicating with your students, whether it's using videos, do what's comfortable to you.
And I would agree with that 100%, Jen. Anytime I do a Remind 101, set up a new group for today's meet, or I create a new poll. And Jen, we did this today. I've used these tools for years. I always do a test with myself. I always add myself to the group. You saw my name was on the group, so I could send a text to make sure it was going to work. I didn't want to leave it to chance. We did the same with today's meet. We entered something in, and we did the same with the poll to see if that was going to work. It just eliminates that's because you have enough of those throughout the day.
And I would encourage you to do that in your classroom. Because you may get a great signal here, but in the room that you're teaching, you may not get a good signal.
Right.
And I've had that issue before too. I've done professional developments moving from room to room in one building. In one room, it's great, no problems. In another, I don't get any reception at all.
Not so much. And particularly if you're streaming video or something like that, it's another good choice. And that's why I think that if you have the ability to use NBC Learn, and you can download it to your hard drive, you'd probably appreciate, IT would probably appreciate that lack of streaming too, through the day. Okay, I don't understand. Just repeat.
That was put up at about the same time he was saying that you could use it that way.
Oh, okay, okay.
If I remember to hit say instead of enter.
Okay, all right.
So the question is, what can you do to bridge that gap? What can you do to help encourage that communication? Because when we look at 21st century skills, it really is all about communication. In studies that they did with the top 5 employers in the United States, they asked them what skills they wanted students to have. And none of them, said anything really about their company or the knowledge they would have to have for their company. It was about the ability to work with others, the ability to communicate, and the ability to collaborate with others. And that's what we need to keep in mind. I know it's hard because we all have things that we want to teach within our content. We need them to know that information. But we also have to think about how are they going to have to use that information if they do go into a field that's going to require them to have that knowledge. If they have it all up in here and they can't share it, does it really do them any good? Does it do us any good? Because that's our future. I mean, that's who's going to be making the decisions and, taking care of us. And if they can't go from here, to impact, are they really learning anything? Are we helping them? Any questions?
Questions about anything today?
Do I need to log off of that?
No, I think they're harassing you maybe. I think we could report that as a harassment. Kidding. You guys were amazing, awesome. Thank you so much for the interaction and the piece, because we learn something every day that we get to get out and talk to other educators, and we really appreciate that. Is there anything that you need from us before we would leave today?
Could you leave those contact emails so that I know who to get a hold of when I have a question?
Our contact emails? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I have a card.
Let me get you a card.
Yeah.
This helps with I am in a personal contest that I just created myself. And they gave me a whole new box of business cards, and my goal is to be the first one to run out. So that'll help me with my quest.
You want to run out this time before something changes and they have to be reprinted?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I'll just lay them here, and anybody that wants to take whatever they've got.
It's all right.
Just
Don't worry about it.
And we'll be back, right?
Next Thursday, same time, same place, same station. We could send.
We will be back next
I
Thursday.
could send us a reminder, yeah, good.
And, yes, we could send a reminder out since you all signed up.
Do it, yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be great.
But if there is something that you think of that you want to know more about, or there's a topic, you have our contact information, just email us.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we have some resources that we can use to help you, that's why we do what we do. It's not for us just to get up and talk, it's to help you guys with what you do, to do the best that you can. Because you guys do some amazing things, and if there's some small things we can help you with, then
Sure.
we'd love to. So let us know.
Great.